giving you a voice.
Making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
Jumping into the recap, we're going to start with the US East region. We've had a lot of events so far this season, and we've seen some great competition and some really high scores, especially for this early in the season. We're going to work our way up the East Coast one state at a time, beginning in Kentucky. Kentucky has few enough First Tech Challenge teams that they don't hold qualifiers. All of their teams advance directly to the state championship, and that event is going to be taking place in late January. West Virginia runs in the same way as Kentucky, but they've already held their state championship. It took place last weekend. Nearly 30 teams competed in the event, and we saw a wide range of robots and strategies. A few teams really rose to the top. 8680 Kraken Pinion was perhaps the strongest robot. They were strong in all aspects of the competition, but they really got their edge from their speed navigating around the field. They don't drive over the crater rim into the crater, which allowed them to effectively use Mecanum drive. So let's check out a clip here of them in one of their matches. You can see they're very rapid as they drive around the field. It almost looks like the video is sped up, but I promise you it's not. And then they also have a unique crater pickup and mineral scoring mechanism that you can see here.
Yeah, so with like KP, they switched to a really fast gear ratio last year for Worlds, and for this year they went even faster. So they're running 13-to-1s on 4-inch wheels for their drivetrain.
I honestly think that more than anything, that takes a lot of skill on the driver's part. So Kraken Pinion drivers, kudos to you, because I know we've tried to make our drivetrains fast. We've had to revert because we just can't handle the speed. So good job.
Yeah, wow. That's definitely impressive.
And I'll jump in and say, I don't know if you guys remember 8680 from last season, but they had a great robot and their drivers were amazing. They were using 6-inch Mecanum wheels. They had field-oriented Mecanum drive, and Josh, their driver, could put that anywhere. He was very accurate.
That's fantastic. We also have another video from the West Virginia finals, match 1, and Nathan is going to discuss those final matches now.
Yeah, so we're going to watch take a look at the first minute of the West Virginia finals. This is a different video than what we have currently. So the West Virginia finals saw, oh shoot, I did not put my list here. It was, the one alliance was 8680 Kraken Pinion. Here we go. The finals alliance was 8680 Kraken Pinion, partnered with 7 Sigma Robotics, which is 10030, partnered with Robotics Doges 8645. The winning alliance was Nuts and Bolts 5040. Their first pick was Supposable Thumbs 4106, and they were partnered with the Nuclear Nerds.
We also saw very strong performances from, as Nathan mentioned, Nuts and Bolts, Disposable Thumbs, and 100307 Sigma. Interestingly enough, 7 Sigma competed in back-to-back tournaments over the weekend. They competed in the Virginia qualifier on Saturday, and then the West Virginia State Championship on Sunday. So
here, this is up right now is the first minute of finals match 1 from the West Virginia tournament. So we can see some pretty impressive robots here. So far. So that's 8680 right now scoring. Back of the field, we see 4106 Disposable Thumbs, and then 7 Sigma off to the right. And then the third pick,
15176.
Yeah, 15176. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Shashir. So there was a lot of great play. This is now the Autonomous playing. And it was just a great finals match all along. So 8680's alliance won this match. Then the alliance with Disposable Thumbs and the Nuts won finals 2 and then finals 3. There is one thing I would like to say while we're talking about this match. I would encourage, so I'd say that us hosts were very impressed with the competitive play at West Virginia, but Ethan and I have received some messages from teams accusing others of ungracious play that occurred during the finals matches. So I have talked to both these teams. I'm not going to discuss here what was said, what both teams said, but I would just like to remind everyone to be gracious competitors, to not hold grudges against people, to assume that what people are doing is in the spirit of first and in the spirit of playing well with each other. So just please be gracious and professional. And if you have any issues with another team, please take that up in a private manner with that team. Katie, do you want to move on to our next competition?
Be happy to. So moving on to Virginia, which is my team's home state, we've had a few qualifiers here so far. The first event was a couple of weeks back, and we saw some really competitive robots, especially for a mid-November tournament. The high score at that event was a score of 310, which was set by two of the three teams on the winning alliance, 49-24, the Tuxedo Pandas, and my own team, 35-95, Schrodinger's Hat. The other notable strongest team at that event was 11112, the Robo-Lords, and they captained the finalist alliance. We have a video here showing these three teams that I just discussed, as well as 9794 Wizards.exe, who I'm going to talk about more in just a moment. So this is a match from one of the finals at the Orange qualifier in Virginia. And you can see all four of these robots are from very strong teams. And throughout the tournaments, they were competing very well. The blue alliance here of the Pandas and my own team scored that score of 310, which is the current high score in Virginia.
So I see that a lot of like the autonomous play is almost complete, right? So like I don't really see any other things happening on the field. Do you think that that's going to continue? Do you think that this was a fluke in your tournament, or do you think that autonomous was pretty much done at this point?
I think that at early qualifiers, this is pretty standard to see where not all of the teams are going for complete points in autonomous. In that match there, both teams only had one of the two robots on each alliance score markers. And so I think that as we get to later tournaments, we're going to see a bit more action later on into the autonomous period.
And we even saw, like, at West Virginia, Kraken Pinion scored their first sample mineral back into the lander. So, like, they're pretty setting the standard here.
In autonomous, Ethan?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I did not notice that. I was just about to say, I don't think we're going to see a lot of teams actually scoring in the lander in autonomous, but maybe I'm wrong. I think we'll definitely see very soon a lot of teams maxing out the autonomous. I know that in Chicago, I'll talk about this in a little bit, where the leagues aren't even that strong. We've seen a good number of teams almost max out the auto. I think the last step most teams are still kind of figuring out, but are almost there, is how to properly sample. Some are using phones, some are using webcams, and it's a pretty new thing to most teams. But I think we're going to see a lot of matches where teams max out auto, and then they're kind of pushing stuff into the depot. Maybe they get something high, and then they hang in the end. I think that's a pretty easy thing to work for now. And then probably January or later this month, we're going to see a lot more teams start scoring in the lander.
I agree that most competitive teams now have been focusing on autonomous and endgame because that's where all of the really big points are. And I think that as we get later into the season, we're going to see a lot more teams focusing on those minerals because they will be the tiebreaker in the more competitive matches.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that just like watching that qualifier, watching how that worked, I think that it's really emulating like the rescue type season where the base teams are going to have that hang, they're going to have that auto. The teams that are differentiating themselves with mineral scoring.
Absolutely. So moving back to Virginia, 2 weeks after that first competition, there were a couple of more qualifiers. And even in that short time, teams had made really significant progress. And we saw even more competitive robots at the events. The team who really rose to the top in those later qualifiers was 519 Epsilon Delta 2. At those qualifiers, we didn't see Virginia's high score of 310 beaten, but 519 has the highest OPR currently in Virginia by far. And they're right now, they're 13th in the world based on OPR. With an OPR of 158. So you can see them playing in this match here. This was a Battlefield qualifier last weekend in Virginia. They're on the Red Alliance. It's the captain of that alliance in finals.
All right, so when like I can see that robot from this limited perspective. It seems like mechanically pretty simple, but I think that it like as long as it works, right? I think that's really a testament to the way that the way it works, the way that FTC works as a whole. It doesn't matter what your robot's like, what your robot. What really matters is what your robot can actually do.
And I have one question for you guys. What have you guys been seeing wheel-wise? I think it looks like all four robots on this field are using Mecanum wheels.
Yeah, for me personally, this is a surprise just watching these matches when we were doing research and stuff, seeing so many mechanism wheels on the field, because Oregon really isn't like that. We have our fair share of swerves actually. We have I think three good ones, and we also have mainly like six wheels. That's the way that people are going. That's something that personally, like whenever I give a presentation, whenever I talk in our community, I try to push, and I think that's sort of reflected.
Yeah, I see a lot of six-wheel drives, and in Iowa at least, I've seen a ton of McKinnon drives. I think it just worked so well last year, and it can get over the crater fine. So people are just kind of adapting it to this year, I think.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked to see it, but teams have been making it work really well. So I've been impressed by all of the Mecanum, Omni Drive, Swerve Drive, all of the different styles of robots in this competition.
Absolutely.
And generally speaking, for Virginia competitions, we've been seeing teams go for all different types of scoring methods. As we talked about earlier, it's mostly autonomous and teleop and endgames, but we've also seen a lot of mineral scored throughout the matches. And notably in Virginia, more than other regions and videos that I've seen so far, we've seen a lot of quadruple hangs. So teams are really focusing on those endgame points.
That's very, very impressive.
So someone asked that Huppodo asked, what's the difference between swerve and mecanum?
Well, I mean, I can probably take that question. So mechanism wheels are basically static wheels with these rollers at 45-degree angles, and based on the amount of power you put on each wheel, it moves the robot in certain directions. Swerve drive, on the other hand, is for regular wheels, for perfectly static wheels, but those wheels themselves are on a swivel, and those swivels are powered by different motors, generally servos, so that like you can move side to side based on the wheels themselves actually turning. So mechanisms provide a lot more maneuverability. It's a lot quicker to move side to side. You have a lot more flexibility with how you turn, but swerve is much more robust, and it allows you to really keep your place on the field. It's very, very sturdy.
Mm-hmm. Then,
yeah.
Did you want to go ahead?
No, you can go.
Okay. So moving on to the next region, which is Maryland and DC. They haven't held any qualifiers yet. Their first events are going to be this upcoming weekend. But we did see two Maryland teams coming down to compete in the Virginia Orange qualifier that we just talked about. Both teams did very well. 11-5-3-4 captained the fourth seed Alliance. They were eliminated in semifinals, but it was by the first seed Alliance, which included the other Maryland team, which was 97-94 Wizards.exe. And the alliance containing Wizards.exe went on to become the championship finalist alliance. And right now up on the screen, you see one of those matches with Wizards.exe on the Red Alliance and Bot Brigade on the Blue Alliance.
Wow, that's very cool. We can see Wizards keeping up their robot quality. I see that's actually looks pretty impressive. I can't wait to see what they come out with, especially after such a successful season last year.
I mean, successful 2 seasons, so to say. First global and
That's right.
FTC.
That's right.
Absolutely. I was really impressed by what they were able to pull together so last minute, even with that first global season extending into August and them then not having as much off-season time to get ready. So they've definitely remained strong.
All right.
Yeah. Should we move on to New York? Or?
Yeah.
Actually, New Jersey next, but yes.
New Jersey.
So they've been holding league meets actually starting as far back as October, but they haven't shared many photos or videos or results so far. What I can tell you is that the most recent winning alliance from New Jersey was teams 12-6-7-6, 11-6-9-7, and 14-4-7-2. So pretty high numbers in the grand scheme of things. New Jersey, of course, also has 99-71, the Land Rose. And they've captained the finalist alliance at a couple of the New Jersey league meets, but their best performance was actually at a Pennsylvania event, which we're going to talk about soon. Delaware is also in a similar situation to New Jersey. Their meets began a couple of weeks back on November 10th, and they've had 2 so far, and these events are going to continue through January. And hopefully as the season progresses, we'll get to see some more footage and information from those leagues. As I mentioned, Pennsylvania also got up and going recently with their Hat Tricks qualifier. The most notable performance at that event was from 99-71, the Land Rose. Based on their performance at that event, they have the 3rd highest OPR in the world with a score of 203, which is definitely impressive. And once again, they're another team that's really keeping up solid performances from previous seasons. Then New York is split into several different regions for First Tech Challenge. Some of them have already started their competitions, and some are going to be starting over the coming weeks throughout December. And 2 teams are really notably dominating the current competition. There's 6051, the quantum mechanics, and 4174, atomic theory. Quantum mechanics has an impressive OPR of 175, which places them 7th in the world right now. Both teams that I just mentioned worked together in the playoffs at one of New York's events. And we have a video of that we can show now. Together, they achieved a score of 340, which at the time, a few weeks back, was the world record. That score has since been beaten, but both teams remain very strong. So we can pull up that video to see them playing together now.
This is some really impressive stuff. Oh, the volunteers standing right there. Thank you. All right. But this is some impressive, once again, I know I'm harping on autonomous a lot, but I got to say that this year's autonomous is just something else. It requires so much coordination. And the thing that surprises me is that the teams are doing it, right? I was expecting so much more collision, so much more ruckus, because it's ruckus. All right. But it's working, and people are making it work quite well.
Absolutely. I've been really impressed by the programming that I've seen so far this year.
Definitely. Something I kind of want to talk about is you see the 2 kind of archetypes of robots that we're seeing emerge this year. So over on the Red Alliance, the FAR robot is kind of a double lift style. So as an intake lift and outtake lift. And the near robot is an actuator. So this is a low pivot point actuator, which is just a big arm, which both designs seem to be pretty effective so far this year. We see Wizards.exe and these guys going for a low pivot point actuator. Whereas you'll see Masquerade later mounts their pivot point a lot higher, which results in some different actuation for their arm. We really didn't see a ton of really competitive double lifts until recently, which kind of scared some people who are building them.
The double lifts as in, what do you mean by that?
So it has a separate intake lift, and then it transfers to an outtake bucket, which has its own lift.
Yep.
Yeah, we're actually just about to start working on a robot with a double lift. So maybe we'll see some changes. I think a double lift is the way to go.
After West Virginia, they look really strong. But before then, it was kind of scary.
Yeah, I think the meta is coming out of West Virginia. I'm not going to lie. I think that competition is what really, set us on that path. So very impressive stuff.
Yeah. So I want to jump back to Shishir's comment about autonomous for a second. There was a picture I threw in our chat, Tyler. I think one of the reasons why teams are not having a lot of collisions is because of this diagram that's about to show. I don't know if you guys have seen this on Reddit, but there's been a big push for every single robot to follow this diagram if you want to do autonomous. And I've actually seen a lot of teams follow it. My team just kind of coincidentally, without seeing this, follows this. My 2 teams follow this, and we've yet to have any autonomous collisions with other teams.
Yeah, sorry about that. Go ahead.
As you're saying, someone just said in chat, I think they're referring to this. It also makes sense. This is a very logical flow for autonomous.
While I agree with that, imagine you're the one problem that I have with this is the orientation right now where the cube is on the right side, right? If a robot just goes to the right and comes back, they're still going to be accessing the depot from the same plane as the green robots, right? That was my one issue with this diagram. There has to be teams will have to figure out a different way to go hit that right hit the correct mineral and then go around to prevent that collision from happening. And that's sort of where I see the issue happening, which is something that I personally haven't seen in competition, which is why I was sort of surprised and impressed.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though. It's kind of cool if everyone had the same auto pass. All right, Katie, I'll let you continue.
All right, so pretty quick recap of the remaining states that we have to talk about. So far, the other ones haven't held competitions yet, but I'll give you a quick run through of when they're going to be happening and what's going to be going on with them. Connecticut and Massachusetts competitions are starting just later this month. Rhode Island has their qualifiers all in the month of January, and then their state championship shortly after that. And then Vermont and New Hampshire each don't hold qualifiers. So their teams advance directly to state championships, like a couple of states that we talked about earlier. And those events are going to be in February for Vermont and New Hampshire. And then finally, Maine doesn't actually run any first type challenge. They only have one FTC team in the entire state, and so that team competes in another location. So in summary of the East Coast, we've seen a lot of great competition so far here, and there are some even more exciting upcoming events as well. There have been super diverse and varied robot designs, which I've been really excited about, and we've seen some super high scores with all of those different designs throughout the events and regions.
Thank you to all of our co-executive producers, keeping fun loud, live, and independent. Pledge your support at patreon.com/first updates now.